What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we're here. We're in episode 2, season 1 for Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. I apologize ahead of time for taking so long for this video to come out. Unfortunately, it is a pain in the butt to not only get through this TV show, but also the fact that it's an hour-long episode that I have to find some sort of time in order to sit down and watch, let alone even be able to withstand an hour of this torture. But still, I do it for you guys to showcase this TV show to you. So we're going to jump right into it, guys, because we don't have a lot of time to waste. With that being said, of course, I'm going to ask you just two things. Consider giving this video a like so you can help us push out to the algorithm, and consider giving me a long view duration because the longer you watch this video, the better YouTube will treat me. With that being said, let's get into the review for season 1, episode 2 of Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. Alright guys, so this episode pretty much picks up exactly where the last one left off. If you guys missed the last one, essentially what happened was the girl gang ended up doing something crazy at the end of the last episode. They mooned everybody during the whole campaign run where they're running for class president, and they decided to pull the same thing that the guys do, because of course the girls have to act like the guys, and they decided to moon everybody. And yes, they did show it. Of course, I didn't show it on screen because, you know, I don't want to get banned, but still, you guys get what I'm saying. So this particular episode starts off with the parents all communicating with each other and talking about what the girl gang did. Now, obviously, the school knows who did the mooning because, again, it happened during the whole presidential student class thing, and they weren't hiding their faces like when the T-Birds decided to do the same thing at the pep rally, and they hid their faces. They decided to do it openly, and everybody saw them, and they know exactly who did it. So the principal obviously knows what went down, and like I said, the mothers are all communicating amongst each other, informing them of exactly what happened, and they do this whole song segment. I'm going to play a quick clip for you guys so you can kind of get the gist of how the song sounds. But again, last video I got copyrighted and blocked from certain countries from showing this review because YouTube was not happy with it. So I'm going to show you a quick clip, and that's it. Check it out.
Protect your kids, lock your doors, 'cause they're raising hell. Did you hear about the girl gang at Rydell?
So again, it's very Glee, very High School Musical, very modern still. I don't feel like I'm watching necessarily a Grease TV show just because the music is just completely not for the time period. And it's one of my biggest complaints about this particular show, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But it is that big of a deal. You know, you're trying to showcase a timepiece or a period piece of something that took place within the 1950s. I would expect to hear music and see styles and things of that nature based in the 1950s. And while you have the look down, kind of, for the most part, it still feels overly modern when it comes to the music and also the lingo and the speech that is used. So Richie and his sister are obviously in big trouble, more so his sister, and she's getting grilled by her parents, and they're basically saying don't do it again because she ends up getting grounded, but Richie did not get grounded for doing basically the same thing. Check it out.
Bobby's too, is he grounded?
Boys will be boys.
You are not a boy.
Everything you do reflects on us.
I do enjoy seeing the overly diverse parents. It is what it is. So apparently in the newspaper, the girl gang is all over the place in the Rydell review, and they're talking about how they essentially mooned everybody and somehow took a picture, because I don't remember them taking a picture when it actually happened. I don't think taking a picture is very easy in terms of like snapping your phone because again, we're in the 1950s, so I didn't see anybody pull out a camera that quickly. But then again, who really knows? I don't really know how they're going to explain that one. The girls end up discussing the newspaper clipping and exactly what happened. Obviously, they are trying to come up with a name for their girl gang. They originally come up with a whole bunch of names, one of which is Black Widows. That obviously doesn't end up sticking. And then we have a segment with the T-Birds in the hallway. Check this out.
Ooh, watch out, fellas.
It's a girl gang. They might beat us up with their pocketbooks.
So the T-Bird ends up making fun of the Pink Ladies, and that's pretty normal. That's pretty much like in tune with what happens. The T-Birds and the Pink Ladies always go back and forth amongst each other, making fun of each other and setting each other up. So again, it's pretty much a normal thing. And now we have this scene with the actual vice principal. I don't really know what she is. I believe she's the vice principal, where she's going to be basically assigning the punishment for the girls because of what they did. Check this out.
Are we getting expelled?
Certainly not. At this school, we believe in rehabilitation. Let's hope that detention every day this semester will be enough to get you to start acting like ladies.
Now, one thing I will mention is that they are overly talkative about the fact that these girls need to act like ladies. And I know this was a thing back in the day. Women were expected to be very ladylike. Unfortunately, that has gone out the window, and women are very ratchet now today. At least most of them are anyway, not all of them. But still, that's besides the point. They're very in your face about it. They're very much like, oh, you need to act like a lady, and that's because this show is trying to counteract that and remind women that they're not supposed to act like a lady, that acting like a lady has no meaning, and they are supposed to be free spirits that can do whatever the hell they want with no consequences. It's kind of that kind of mindset that they're pushing on this particular TV show. So she ends up punishing them, and she gives them detention for the entire semester, which is obviously pretty hardcore, but well-deserved, I would imagine. They talk amongst themselves, and they say, don't worry, detention is not so scary. And then we have another musical scene. Check this out.
Pushing past the unforgivable edge, always one step out of bounds. Can't get the taste out my mouth.
You guys see what I'm saying? Like, this music is not from the 50s. I'm sorry, it's not from the 50s. This is not period piece music. And I wish that they would have adopted probably Grease 2, because then Grease 2 would be set in the 80s, and that would be a little more believable, you know? But unfortunately, they took over the 50s, which is a drastic change in music from the 50s to the 80s, or even modern day, and they're singing modern day music. So this is basically like a modern day show taking place in the 50s in terms of music and whatnot, but it doesn't showcase it correctly. Like, you are not in the right musical style to be in the 50s. You're just not. And I feel like I'm constantly taken out of watching this show. Like, if I were to sit down and genuinely watch this show and try to be interested in it, which I do for every single TV show, no matter how bad it is, no matter how bad I know it's going to be, I do give it a genuine shot. You constantly taking me out. You're taking me out with this music. It just doesn't fit. And I'll give you guys more example of it. When it gets to the chorus, it really starts to rear its ugly head. Check it out.
More than I probably should, more than I probably ever could have. I want more.
Cue typical song about a woman who wants more and is not just content with being ladylike. Of course, they want to make you seem like you deserve everything under the sun for doing absolutely nothing and not acting like a lady at all. It's just one of those songs. I'm not even going to bother playing it because, again, copyright. And number two, you guys get the point already. So now she's talking to her now ex-boyfriend after the whole fiasco that happened in the last episode. Check this out.
I want you to be the one to be worried that you won't get into college now. I want you to tell everyone that you're not the good guy here.
So she's mad because of what happened in the last episode, and kind of rightfully so. He tried to break up with her and kind of date her behind the scenes because she's not really considered popular. All the popular kids don't like her, and he was trying to win class president, and it was deemed that he would not win if he was to date her openly. So he tried to use her as a hidden side piece, essentially, and she's mad about it, and I can't really blame her. But again, she's trying to fight him back and say that she's going to expose him for not being a nice guy and explain exactly what he did that got him to this point. And he, of course, does not want that. And now we have a scene with the T-Birds and the Pink Ladies, of course, in the same classroom. It seems like this high school is so unbelievably small that all the kids share the same classes.
Okay, so that's not gonna work. What else you got?
I've got something. New jacket ideas. Okay, first up, the red cherries. We may look sweet, but if you tick us off, we get real sour.
They can't seem to come up with a name for their crew or their jackets, and they're still basically... This whole thing is going to be in limbo. Like, they don't actually reveal the Pink Lady jackets until the very, very end. Then the girls come up with an idea to try to steal some information from the vice principal's office, but the only way to do that is by her pretending to be sick to get her attention so that one of the girls can sneak in and get what they're looking for. Check it out.
Nurse Pollock is late for the day. I don't know what to do.
They're obviously trying to get bad information on him because they want to expose him as not being the perfect little goody two-shoes that he pretends to be out openly in public. So they're trying to get that kind of dirt on him, and she's having trouble finding that information. So she ends up finding a record of herself and what was spoken about between her and Mr. Daniels, because again, like the last episode, they were hinting at what she did with a teacher, and she obviously had a relationship with the teacher, a seemingly sexual relationship with the teacher, and they're not kind of giving you all that information right off the bat because they want you to kind of wonder what happened. And now we fast forward and we have another segment here in the locker room. Check this out.
Speaking of copping a feel, you candy asses going to Dot's party tonight? Am I gonna have to neck the whole cheerleading team myself?
Just keep your distance from Rosemary. She said I might get to second base tonight.
So she overhears in the boys' locker room that they're going to go to a party. They all have plans with all the different girls, and she's kind of going to expose all of them, and they're going to create this whole big plan to try to get back at the boys. And then we finally get some more information about what happened between Mr. Daniels and one of the Pink Ladies. But before that happens, we have an interaction between Jane and Richie. Check this out.
The ballpark has come alive. Tensions are high between the Dodgers and the Giants. Dodgers are first up to bat, putting Robinson in.
So cue the typical awkward scene where they're both forced to get very close and then suddenly realizing they have some sort of weird attraction. Not really sure what's going on there. And again, now you have one of the Pink Ladies going up to Mr. Daniels to basically talk about what was put in the file that she found when she was going through all the information in the vice principal's office. Check this out.
Did you tell the principal I tried to seduce you?
Had to. My job was at stake.
I was locked in my room all summer. I can't take honors English because you're the only one who teaches it. I thought you almost lost your job.
So obviously something big happened between these two, and he doesn't want to necessarily admit to it, obviously, for obvious reasons. And she very clearly saw the relationship as one other way, and he saw it another way. Now, considering his sneaky smile, obviously I would imagine that this man is probably lying through his teeth to save his own ass, just like she basically said. But I don't think this is going to be the end to this story. I'm pretty sure they're going to dive even deeper, and he's probably going to get exposed at some point or another, and she's going to be the one to do it. So they end up escaping out of this guy's office, and she stops pretending to be sick because they realize that everything is good. Richie and Jane kind of hit it off a little bit, and then they go forward from there. He gives them the keys, and now they're back at the restaurant that everybody knows from Grease. It's basically the same thing, and ironically the same table. This is exactly the same table that they sat at in the original Grease movie with Sandy and Danny. It's literally the exact same setup. So then they start coming up with a plan to try to get back at the boys, and then we go to the party where they're going to enact that plan. Jane ends up getting her ex-boyfriend in the closet, and then this happens.
My dad, he's got sort of a reputation. He's building that big new development, Lakeridge.
What does that have to do with any of this?
Nobody's supposed to know this. But he's running for mayor next year.
So she threatens to expose him with the information that she's gotten. He's telling her that he can't do it because his father is running for mayor next year and they need to be basically squeaky clean. And she says she really doesn't care. You got to do it anyway. Of which, obviously, he's not going to. And then we have this segment. Check this out. So she pulls a joke on him as he goes in to lean for a kiss for one of the Pink Ladies. And then he gets pretty pissed. And then this happens. Check this out.
Nice skid marks.
What the hell, Cynthia?
Don't flip your lid. It was just a goof. I'm sure Olivia's seen more Sundays, right?
Why can't you act like a normal girl?
So this is going to be a play on modern words. And the reason why I say that is because even though this took place back then and tomboys obviously existed, there's a certain line in here that leads me to believe that they're not talking to you as if this was from the 1950s where people were tomboys. They're talking to you as modern day when she's basically going to say in the next coming line that she doesn't really consider herself to be girl enough for the girls or boy enough for the boys. So she's kind of in between. She has no real place, and it kind of leads credence to the whole conversation about non-binary and all this other nonsense from modern day. I just consider her to be a tomboy, of course, but other people would think otherwise. So the T-Birds end up leaving the party because it's considered just a complete dud. Jane is still in the closet with her ex-boyfriend trying to convince him to do the right thing, and of course, he's not going to do the right thing at all. And then we have this scene. Check this out.
Thrills that are gone become memories and not hallucinations. Remember.
So this particular scene is really trying to make the women seem like victims. If you guys notice that, the whole close-ups of all the women seemingly feeling uncomfortable, everybody looks like they did something they didn't want to do, and yet that's how they're trying to push it, but I just don't get that vibe because these girls very much knew exactly what they were doing when they were there, but they're trying to show this whole uncomfortable thing, like, oh, all the guys are evil because they did something with the girls that apparently they didn't want to do, but they did it anyway. It's like, why are you showcasing them to be victims? And then on top of that, Jane has an opportunity to expose this man in front of everybody, and she chooses not to, and she essentially walks away after seeing all these women supposedly victimized. Check this out.
I need some air.
So she completely walks away. Everybody is obviously confused. Even he's completely confused because he's like, why the hell didn't you say anything? Not that he actually wanted her to say anything in the first place. And then we have this scene in the hallway where she basically says that she just can't do it because no matter what, he's always seemed as cool. There's no stopping him. And then they talk amongst each other and this happens. Check it out.
Here's looking right at you, kid. You spent the whole night obsessed with impressing the T-Birds. Boys.
Yeah, because none of you laugh at any of my jokes and I'm hilarious. But I guess I'm too girl to be one of the boys and too boy to be one of the girls.
So there's the line that everybody was waiting for, where she basically says she's neither boy nor girl. And again, that's, in my opinion, a more modern thing. They tried to sneak it in there in the terms of the 1950s, basically saying it without saying it. But again, we know better when it comes to TV shows like this exactly what they mean. They have this whole segment inside the house and come up with the plan to get revenge. And they essentially want to bring the boys downstairs to kind of poison them, it looks like. But before they do that, they have this whole girl boss moment and this whole girl boss scene. Check this out.
No excuses for the masses. No more faking stupid laughs. No more holding sweaty hands. Boys only keep you from your youth.
Again, this song, I don't know if I should call it a girl boss song. It's more of a girl victimized song. Like they're basically talking about, imagine a world where women would be equal. That's basically what they're talking about. Which again, you can argue is probably something that women were thinking back in the 1950s, but the way they present it is just through the modern eyes of all women are victims. After they have this whole girl boss moment though, again, they come up with this idea to kind of poison the boys. They seduce them, they lead them downstairs, give them liquor that is obviously spiked, and the boys stupidly drink it anyway. And then they end up going upstairs and locking the boys in the basement. And then once they get to the end, boys run upstairs obviously because they're feeling something, and then this happens. Check it out.
Snooped in those medicine cabinets.
God's mom has a lot of pills.
Let us out, you pinko tramp!
So the girls end up running away, leaving them locked in the basement, and after being called Pinko Tramps, she finally gets the idea to be called the Pink Ladies. Check this out.
Consider it. On a trial basis. So, Jane, you think a pink lady can become president?
You spent so much time just trying to prove that I'm the good guy and Buddy's the bad guy.
Of course, you gotta be bad to be good kind of a thing, yay. And then towards the end, what ends up happening is that they finally get their jackets, and they do the classic scene where everybody's looking at them in the hallway rocking the Pink Lady jackets for the first time ever. Check this out. And then the episode ends from there. So again, guys, this particular episode really wasn't all for it. The only thing I found interesting was the backstory about Mr. Daniels and what he did with one of the Pink Ladies. But aside from that, everything else was pretty much what you would expect. Typical girl boss moments. It's pretty straightforward. It seems like there's going to be a kindling between Jane and Richie. Not that I really give a shit, to be honest with you. It was very subtle. But again, it seems like they're going down that route, and it's going to be probably the first union between a Pink Lady and a T-Bird, and that's going to start the whole Pink Lady should be with T-Birds thing that is very well known from the original movies. So aside from those couple interesting little side plots, the overall main story just is not that interesting to me. Again, I don't like the fact that this is taking place in the 1950s, and all I keep hearing is modern Ariana Grande music, or one of the songs sounded like it came from Beyonce. It just doesn't sound like music from the 1950s, and that's really annoying me and taking me out of the episodes. The lingo that they use is very modern day lingo. The sets look pretty decent, I'll give them that. I mean, but it's not very hard to create a high school set. It's not like you're creating some magical Marvel CGI. You're just doing a high school set. So I don't really think it's that hard to do, and I can't really give them that much credit for it. It's not very hard. So overall, I'm gonna have to give this episode for Rise of the Pink Ladies episode 2 a solid 4 out of 10. I think the show is getting slightly better because the woke stuff really wasn't so massive in this particular episode. But again, the story is very lackluster. The music is god-awfully terrible, and I just wish that they would stick to some more classic-sounding 1950s music and throw some spin on it. But again, they're not even throwing spin on it. They're just creating music from today's modern age and throwing it into a 1950s piece. It just doesn't make any sense, and it takes me out of it completely. The acting is pretty cringe overall. There are some good scenes. Like I said, I like the Mr. Daniels scene. That was interesting. But overall, it's very cringy stuff. And when I looked at the Pink Ladies in the reveal at the end of this episode, and I saw them walking down the hallway, all I kept thinking about were the original 4 Pink Ladies from the original Grease movie, and even the Pink Ladies from Grease 2. They are so much better than these Pink Ladies. I look at these Pink Ladies and I'm like, nah, I'm not really buying it. But again, this is what I'm dealing with when it comes to Paramount Plus and their decision of casting. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this particular review. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.